Hello, so in this video we're going to have a look at some basic weather phrases in French. So we're going to talk about what they mean in English, work on pronunciation, and look at some example sentences you can build with them using things you've already learned in French. As usual, I strongly recommend you have your vocab sheet available with you so you can take some notes, add things to them, or at least some paper so that you can take notes about what we're going to learn today. Also, whenever I ask a question, try to answer it first. And in fact, if it's a longer question to answer, you can pause to have a longer think or actually write your answer. Then you press play again to listen to my answer. Let's begin. So firstly, this is our vocab sheet we're going to use, and we're going to be working with box number 5, the weather. These are our weather phrases we're going to use. Let's have a closer look. I'm going to hide the English for now, just so we can focus on the French. The reason for this is that if we focus on the patterns in the French, it will be easier to remember those phrases. Already, and I put them in a specific order, you should be able to spot 3 different patterns. There's one that cuts there, and one that cuts there. So these two are two words only, and they start with il on its own. These ones start with il y a, and these ones start with il fait. But let's have a think about that il here. This is a word you should recognize, you should have encountered before. We've encountered it with the verb to be, here. We've encountered it with the verb to have, it's here. And so the word il means he. But then you might be thinking, oh, that's really odd. We're talking about the weather. Why would I say he rains? What's the he? And so that's because if you remember, in French, all the nouns are either masculine or feminine. So that's a gender. And it has nothing to do with boy or girl. So in this case, it doesn't actually mean he, it means it. And that is the same thing for elle, which means she. Both of them also mean it. Okay, so for example, although in English you might say it about a dog, so it sleeps, in French I would say il, because dog is un chien, it's masculine. Okay, so that's why, even though you might think, oh, that means he, we actually translate it as it. Okay, let's put away the elle because we won't need it for now. And let's have a closer look at our phrases. So let's start at the top here. So it and then something else, and I can tell you that that something else is a verb. Okay. So our phrases here are it rains and it snows. So these are it and then the verb. Quite simple. We're going to skip this section and come back to it in a bit. And we're going to go straight here to il fait. All of those start with il fait. What does fait mean? We've seen it very recently. It means it does. And then we have adjectives. So chaud, froid, beau, and mauvais. Hot, cold, nice or bad. All of these are adjectives. And again, I know it's a bit odd to think of weather in terms of does, but that is how we talk about lots of the weather in French. So it does hot is how we say it is hot. I'll give you some tips later as to how to remember. Let's move to the last category we've left in the middle. Il y a, we've encountered il y a before. Have a think about what it means. So it means there is. And then it finishes with a noun. I've blocked the middle one because I want you to have a think. We've just learned those quite recently. What do they mean? So du, des, de la, or de L apostrophe means some. So there is some sun, there is some wind, etc. And now you might be thinking, that's really odd. She just said that il means it, and it means it here, but here it doesn't mean it. It actually does mean it. It's just hidden in there. Il y a, although you say it as there is in English, if you translated it literally, it would be it has there. So over there. So that's where it's hiding. So there is sun, there is wind, there are storms, because there's an S here, and there is fog. Now you're probably thinking, oh dear, that's a lot of different things. They're completely different from English, and I will never remember this. I'll give you some tips to do this. Okay, so my first tip is the section at the top. When it's a verb, it's things that fall. So it rains or it snows. And in fact, the word fall is a verb. I fall, you fall, he falls. This is a verb. It's an action word. My second tip is from this section here. All of these are things that are visible. I know you might think that wind is not visible, but actually you can see it outside when it's making the branches in the tree move, for example. So that's the actions of the wind. So just think of it as being something that is visible. My second tip is that when something is visible, you can point at it and you can say, hey, it's over there, there, and you're pointing at it over there. And so that's my second tip. And my third tip, to remember how to say there is in French, il y a. Let's have a closer look. Inside il y a, we have the letter Y, which to me anyway, because I have a very good imagination, kind of looks like an arrow. And with an arrow, you can point at things over there. See what I did there? There. So if it's visible, you can point at it over there with an arrow. Il y a is for something that there is and which is visible. Okay. Finally, my last tip for it does and adjective. All of those are things that are kind of vague or that you can feel, that are a sensation. So you can feel if it's hot or cold. You can't really see it. Nice and bad, well, it's very vague. It's not, you look outside and it looks like something very, very specific. And especially with hot or cold, if it's something that you can feel on your skin, it's a sensation, you can feel it because the hot or the cold does something to you. It makes you react. Okay. I know you might feel like that's really, really far-fetched. It's not the best tip, but if it helps you remember, okay, it's vague, it's a sensation, and it means it's doing something to me, that will help you remember this one. Okay, now let's move on to some pronunciation practice. I've kept the same 3 categories and we'll go through them one at a time. I would strongly recommend you repeat after every sentence I say, and in fact pause until you're satisfied with your pronunciation, and then you can move on to the next one. Okay, so we're going to start with the phrases that are things that fall, and they are it and then the verb. So we have il neige, and il pleut. Il pleut. So why am I not pronouncing the T at the end? Il pleut. Because it's a consonant. At the end of words in French, if we have a consonant, they are normally silent. A consonant is the opposite of a vowel. So vowels are A, E, I, O, U. And so if it's not that, it's a consonant. And at the end of a word in French, most of the time, the consonants will be silent. Il pleut. Right, let's look at the other category. So things that are visible. If it's visible, you can point at it over there. And if you can point at it over there with an arrow, there's an arrow in il y a. Okay, so always good to try and remember with those tips. Il y a du brouillard. Il y a du brouillard. Why am I not pronouncing the D? Because it is a consonant at the end of a word in French, so it is silent. Il y a du brouillard. Next one. What is going to be silent here? So the S will be silent. What else? Nothing else. You might be tempted to think this one here as well, but straight after is something that makes him react. So the vowel here will change the sound of the consonant in front of it. So we see this sometimes in French. Il y a des orages. So we carry the sound here. It's just because it's easier to say. Otherwise, I would have to say il y a des orages, and it would just blend together too much. Il y a des orages. Il y a des orages. Please don't say oranges. We don't have oranges falling from the sky, okay? Or don't write it for that matter. No ends here. Okay, next one. Il y a du soleil. Il y a du soleil. It's sunny, or there is sun. And finally, il y a du vent. Il y a du vent, with a silent T. There is some wind. Last category, what did we have as a tip to remember? So we have things that fall, things that are visible, and things that are vague or kind of a sensation. And if it's a sensation, it's because it's doing something to you to make you feel it. Okay? So it does, il fait. And then we're going to use an adjective after. Il fait chaud. Il fait chaud. It's hot, or it does hot. Silent T, silent D. Why? They are consonants. Next one. Il fait froid. Il fait froid. Again, consonants, so they are silent. We've got 2 last ones. Il fait beau. Il fait beau. This word, we've encountered it before with description, so it means handsome or pretty or good looking. So literally, it's good looking outside. It's nice looking weather. Our last one, il fait mauvais. Il fait mauvais. Mauvais means bad. Right. Finally, now that we've done the pronunciation, we're going to look at putting those into sentences. To do this, we're going to be using a bit more of that vocab sheet. Let's just hide the bits we haven't gotten to yet. And we can already now talk about the weather on certain days of the week or in certain months. Just like in English, you wouldn't say January, there is fog. You would say in January there is fog. We're going to need to add some words. So if you have printed your vocab sheet, you'll need to add them because they're not there already. So with days of the week, we're simply going to add le, which means what? Means the. The Monday, it rains. The Tuesday, it snows. That's how we would say on Monday, it rains. That's how we would say in French. So, le lundi, il pleut. Le mardi, il neige. With months, we don't use le, we use en. So, in January, in February. En janvier, il fait beau. In January, it is nice weather, it does nice. Okay, so using this, we've got 2 sentences here. Pause the video, write them down, and then you can unpause to listen to your answers and see if you're right. On Tuesday, there is sun, number 1. So Tuesday, so because it's the day of the week, we're going to use le. Le mardi, there is sun. Il y a du soleil. Le mardi, il y a du soleil. In August, it is nice. Literally, it does nice. So August is here, so I'm going to use en. En août, and then it does nice. Il fait beau. En août, il fait beau. Okay, let's add a little bit more to that. We're going to be using this box here, number 4, with seasons to make longer sentences. I'll give you a couple examples before you can do those 2 here, okay? As usual, we just follow the arrow to build our sentence. As you can notice, they all start with L' or le. What does that mean? The same as here, means the. So just like with days of the week where we say the Monday it rains, it means on Monday it rains. In French with months, we just say the. We don't say in the winter. It's already kind of in there. So l'hiver means the winter or in the winter. So if I wanted to say, for example, in the spring it rains, le printemps, il pleut. All right, we've got 2 more examples, so pause the video and then you can listen to the answers after. In the winter, it snows. So, l'hiver, il neige. L'hiver, il neige. In May, it rains because it's the spring. So those 2 words, although they're not visible here, we have learned them with opinions. So I like this because it's fun. So they should be on your vocab sheet as well, just to the left. In May, it rains because it's the spring. So May is here, so I'm going to use en. En mai, il pleut. And then because it's, car or parce que c'est, the spring, le printemps. En mai, il pleut, car or parce que c'est le printemps. Okay, so let's make even more interesting sentences just by adding 1 more word. I'm going to blow your socks off. I hope your hats are strapped on. We're going to use quand, which means when. Obviously, you'll need bits that are not on this sheet here, but you have this in your vocab sheet to start with. So just building your sentence with the arrow as usual. Here are my 3 examples. I will do number 5 with you now. I suggest you just pause after I've done this one because I'll point out some mistakes you might make. Then you've got number 6. 7 is much harder. It's got the 2 little asterisks. But by all means, do try it before you look at the answers. So when it's hot, I often play tennis. When it does hot or it's hot, quand il fait chaud. That's easy. I often play tennis. So first little hurdle. Let's put away often for now and just think of I play tennis. I play is je joue. And here often we put in front of the verb. But where do we put it in French? Not in front of the verb. We put it after the verb. So je joue souvent. I've got that little word here to show you what kind of words you might have forgotten. What does that mean? Au. Je joue souvent au tennis. Means at. So in French you have to say I play at tennis. Or in this case, I play often at tennis. So even though we're adding some new bits and we're really excited, don't forget the bits we've already learned, okay? Yes, it does mean you have to go slowly. Yes, it does mean you need to use your sheet, and probably not just this section, but the other sections as well. But at this stage, we're just practicing. Okay, so pause now, do these two, and then listen to the answers afterwards. Number 6, I do horse riding when there is sun because it's fun. I do horse riding, so it's not here, it's on your other vocab sheet, but we can write it out. Je fais de l'équitation. We mustn't forget de l. What does it mean in English? I do some horse riding. That's how we say it literally in French. When there is sun. Quand il y a du soleil. Quand il y a du soleil. Because it's fun. So because we used it earlier, car, and then it's fun, c'est amusant. Je fais de l'équitation quand il y a du soleil, car c'est amusant. Last one, as I said, lots of bits to think about, so don't worry too much if you've forgotten bits now. It's your first time, but we need to improve on this, of course. When it's cold, so quand. I'm not going to write c'est. Yes, it means it's, but that's not how we say it's cold. We say it does cold. Quand il fait froid. Easy peasy. Ooh, I don't play football, so that's the negative. So we've learned how to do the negative. It's ne and pas around the verb. And the verb is play. So I play, you play, he plays, etc. I don't play is je ne joue pas. Je ne joue pas. Okay, in French we then say I play at football, or I don't play at football, not just football. So we need the au football. But, so that's in last unit, so mais. I do judo. So I do is je fais, and of course when I use I do with activities, I say some. I do some judo. Je fais du judo. Lots of bits to remember. I suspect you were maybe not sure where to put ne and pas, and you might have forgotten those little words. So it's about really all these little details. So at this stage, take your time, use the arrows to build simple sentences, and don't try to do something from memory before you know it perfectly. So keep using your resources until it's actually sunk in. I hope this helped.